The Stanley Cup playoffs are already on the horizon, and one series has already concluded as the Carolina Hurricanes have swept the Ottawa Senators. And if you want to know who's feeling happy right now, take a look at this.
Oh, hey, you probably weren't expecting me to get a broom out. To be fair, I wasn't expecting myself to get a broom either. But I'm just taking out the trash known as the Ottawa Senators. That's a sweep. On to round 2. Let's go.
How you feeling, Alec?
Great job, Alec. Great job.
I'm teeter-tottering in between losing my sanity and keeping my sanity together. I mean, it's like a complete roller coaster. On one side, we have the Penguins, who are down 0-3 to a division rival, and the Flyers, the in-state rival. I mean, there's less to be angry about that because we have no expectations heading into the season. On the other is the Hurricanes. Woohoo! And then we'll talk about that one later.
We'll talk about that one later. We got Marcus Stewart coming on here because he's been on a long vacation. But we got baseball. We got the NFL draft. We got a lot going on. Let's do the intro. Let's do it.
Flag football is almost as bad as amateur wrestling.
There's a lot that needs to be fixed.
What are we even hearing about?
Tiny rant here. I can't. Brian Cashman is as dumb as a doornail.
The U.S. will beat Canada in the gold medal game.
Guarantee! Get Anthony Volpe off of my team.
Just give me my team.
Hi, y'all. How you doing? My name's Marcus Stewart. I've been gone for a few months because I've been on vacation, as you can see by the skin tone of my face. Anyway, I was aware that there were some sports problems between a couple of our co-hosts here. If you want to talk to me about your problems, I'm all open for it. I don't accept health insurance, and I have a PhD in therapy. Anyway, my number for those who want it is 1-2-3-4-5-6-7-8-9-0.
Go back into the vacation. Go back on vacation.
All you can do is just laugh at this point.
That is Marcus Stewart. Marcus Stewart will be back. Anyways, Marcus Stewart is back, but we'll get to him in a little bit. The NHL and NBA playoffs are underway. The NFL draft, as I think, is close to concluding day 3. This episode is called Legends of Tomorrow because of the NFL draft. Matt, you're going to Kevin's calls out now, but gentlemen, how are you?
Here and there, Matt. I'm here and there.
I'm going to become the Joker.
Okay. You know what? You guys are so edgy right now. I'm going to create another band and create a whole new segment.
Gonna have to
start with the first segment right
buy some
about
red paint
now.
Paint the smile on your face, Matt. Oh my God.
I'm back, folks. So anyway, here's those Gulfs now that has some problems with their sports teams. While the Carolina Hurricanes won, Alec Nava's losing his mind over a couple teams, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Houston Rockets. The Rockets are down 0-3 in their series against the Los Angeles Lakers, and I'd like to get outside of the story as to what's going on. Alec, let your inner Joker out, because I know you got a lot to say.
Oh, man. What do I... All right. On one hand, yes, the Penguins, there's less to be angry about on that side because there's no expectations for the Pens heading into the postseason. But also the Flyers had no expectation heading into the season. But the fact that this is a 3-0 series lead for the Flyers should be considered a crime against humanity. To think that this would be a tighter series, yet the youth has been dominating the old guys as we see in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's a common trend, and this series is no exception. Look at the top performers of the Penguins as opposed to the Flyers. Sidney Crosby, 38. Evgeny Malkin, 39. Erik Karlsson, 35. Brian Rust, 33. Ricard Raquel, 32. And Anthony Mantha, 31. And that doesn't include Chris Letang, who's 39, but I don't consider him a top performer. He's a shell of himself. He and Sam Girard looked like they were a good pairing down the stretch, but boy, have they been brutal in this series. Parker Wotherspoon and Erik Karlsson have been our most reliable defensive pairing, while a youth from the Flyers has been walking this all around. Look at this core. Porter Martone, 19 years old. Matvei Michkov, 21 years old. Tyson Forster and Jamie Drysdale are each 24. Trevor Zegras, 25. Owen Tippett, 27. The flaws that we have quickly shown, and we're lurking beneath the surface. Defense has been next to non-existent for us, and it's been an issue all year long. We managed to outscore our problems, which are defense and goaltending, and they've been masked all year long. And finally, they've came out at the worst possible time. The defense has been nowhere. Ryan Shea and Connor Clifton have been brutal as a third pairing in this playoff series, despite Ryan Shea being a pleasant surprise down the stretch as our standout defensive defenseman. And oh my goodness, this Flyers team has been skating circles all over us, all over the ice. Nowhere to go in the neutral zone. Nowhere to generate queen zone exits out of our own zone. And in the rare chances that we do, it's few and far in between, 5-on-5. The only goals that we scored in game 3, power play goals. Goaltending, oh my goodness. It's been bad all year. It's hard to point the finger at Stuart Skinner for us going down 3-0, but he had 2 gimme goal saves that he should not have let in. He's at minus 2.8 goals saved above expected. He's okay, but he's not someone you can trust to take you far. Our best goaltender in the system is someone who's currently not on our active roster. And he's being developed in the AHL, and his name is Sergei Murashov. He's who he's considered a goaltender of the future. Artur Shilov's, oh boy. Wish I could say something different, but it's the same song and story about here. Now, it would be one thing, but the Houston Rockets, oh my goodness. Boy, do I have to work for this. I didn't see us standing a chance against the Thunder, but oh boy, this was coming for a while. This season was the end result of a culmination of what has been a nightmare. How did we fall behind 3-0 against a team that should have been a literal cakewalk of an opponent? This speaks volumes to how I'm less angry about the Penguins, because the Rockets are in win now mode. And it looks like this team looks like a very far cry from the one that took the Thunder to 2 overtimes to begin the season. I survived through 27 straight missed frees, the blow up at the James Harden core, and the Steven Silas years. None of that comes close to this. What is competent coaching? Ime Udoka has proven himself as someone who likes to cheat on Nia Long, and now he's cheating on us. Us Rockets fans. He's cheating on us. Alperen Sengun all of a sudden found a 3-point touch and fired about hesitation, but the moment he took a bad free, Ime tells him to sit down onto the bench. And now his hesitation to shoot a free comes back, and he's been bad from deep. For someone who's supposed to be a player motivator and disciplinarian, he is losing the X's and O's battles against J.J. Redick handily. Wow, it's like having 2 former head coaches on your coaching staff as your assistants makes a huge difference. Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks are helping J.J. Redick get acclimated and to help him with X's and O's. Ime Udoka, what does he do? Hires close buddies and yes men to his coaching staff. Aaron Miles, Ben Sullivan, both were assistants on the Celtics team that made to the finals in 22. Garrett Jackson, Mike Moser, both played AAU ball for him in Portland 15 plus years ago. There's been no improvement of this offense after trading for KD, especially in a league that likes to score more. We're moving backwards offensively. So many turnovers, no counters when KD is doubled, no offensive creativity, no utilization of Reed Shepherd beyond 25 minutes, and you're basically playing him as a rookie because you didn't play him at all last year. Clutch games, that doesn't exist here. We're one of the worst teams in the clutch, and we have 6 of the worst blown leads you've ever had. Think about this. Blown 13-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Trailblazers. blowing a 14-point lead with 10 minutes left against the lowly Kings, blowing an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Knicks, blowing a 25-point lead to the Pelicans, and falling in overtime where we got outscored 50-29 combined between the fourth quarter and overtime. If you think that blow lead to the Pelicans is bad, try blowing a 13-point lead with 3 minutes left in overtime to the Timberwolves, one of the worst teams in the clutch this season. And not just any Timberwolves team, try a Timberwolves team without Anthony Edwards. Oh, but we're just getting started. Here's the cherry on top. Game 3, becoming just the second team in playoff history to blow a 6-point lead with 30 seconds left in regulation and losing. That only happened once. The Knicks in game 5 against the Sixers, and they were up 3-1 their series. We were down 2-0 in our series to a Lakers team missing Luka and Austin Reeves. And don't get me started with how eBay managed to burn KD to the ground. A 37-year-old nearing the twilight of his career should not be averaging the third most minutes per game in the NBA. Guess what happens if you force him to have that workload? Injuries late in the season. Wow, it's like you're burning him to the ground and causing him to get hurt. What a shock! Not to mention that he historically hasn't taken his teams to the next level. LeBron James, on the other hand, has. That's the big difference because LeBron is a leader. KD is not. Rafael Stone, goodbye. Sayonara. His stubbornness and refusal to admit that we're lacking a true point guard is costing us, and we're paying the price. Fred VanVleet is hurt. Oh, well, Amon Thompson can run point guard. We're stagnating and not going anywhere meaningful. Blame the injuries. Of course, that's the reason why we didn't trade for Kobe White. Of course, that's the reason why we're down 3-0 in this series. Not the god-awful excuse of an offensive development or with this defense that can't and get clear stops at times. Tari East is our only reliable bench option. It's being thrust to the starting five because our other bench options are awful. We should not be missing Steven Adams this much. Josh Okogie, poor man's Dylan Brooks. Dorian Finney-Smith, done. Quint Capella, washed. Aaron Holiday, bad. Jayshawn Tate, biggest waste of a roster spot. If the upper management uses the injury excuse as to why we lost this series, I'm gonna... That's the worst excuse you can make when Stone showed a lack of urgency to get a proper point guard or a proper bench that can go and outscore Bronny James. Bronny James! He had 5 points compared to our bench unit's 3 points. What is going on here? We're the Memphis Grizzlies 2.0. Of course we get high value draft picks, and we're using this to develop key pieces, yet that doesn't matter because we don't have a superstar. All this talk about Alperen Şengün being shipped off for Giannis is not guaranteed because there's going to be a serious bidding war for him. What an absolute waste of a season.
Fantastic, Alec. Fantastic. That is an A+ rant from you. Forget my previous rants. That
is an A. Honestly, that was something that I did not expect coming from Alec. Like, that is something that, like you talk about you were going to unleash the Joker. You unleashed the Joker and Bane combined.
I had to let that off.
No, I don't blame you at all.
No, it was great. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But then again, this segment's not over. It's called Mark Stew for a reason. I know there's someone named Kevin Zealous who's a diehard Knicks fan that isn't too pleased with what he's been seeing. Now, I don't have the Knicks game right in front of me, but I do know that there was a press conference earlier today where Mike Brown basically said, I can't promise you we're going to win this series. Outside of that, the Knicks lost back-to-back one-point games to the Atlanta Hawks, and C.J. McCollum is the new antagonist in New York. So, I'd like to get Kevin Zealous thoughts about what's going on with the Knickerbockers. Kevin, take the floor.
I don't know, man. It's like the Knicks, like, they give me heart attacks every time they make the postseason. And it's just like, oh, let's see how we're going to mess this series up. Let's see how long we're going to prolong this one. And then I was telling you guys, like, whenever we're doing our NBA bracket challenges, I'm like, the Knicks better win this series in 5 games. And now they can't win it in 5 games because they're down 2-1. They're dominating game 4 right now. They're up 21 with still the whole entire fourth quarter left. Even if they win, I'm still gonna get mad about the team's play the last 2 games because it's unacceptable. Like, losing back-to-back 1-point games on the last possession against CJ McCollum. The only thing you have to do is guard CJ McCollum. He's the only guy who can beat you on the Atlanta Hawks, the only one. And yet you let him score on you in the final seconds of the last 2 games. And you still had a chance to win the game last game. He makes the last second shot, but you got 12 and a half seconds left. Brunson has the ball, Mr. Clutch, right? But he holds the ball on for too long, goes on the other side of the court. Well, 4 of their Knicks are on the other side, and then Brunson was trying to hand the ball off underneath the paint. No one's there. Turn it over. Game over. You're down two games to 1. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage. And then you mentioned that press conference, that quote from Mike Brown. After that game, he was like, I don't know if we're going to come back down 2-1. Are you kidding me? What do you mean you're not going to come back down 2-1? You are the New York Knicks head coach. This is your first year. You have big shoes to fill because Tom Thibodeau got this team to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And if you don't get back there, if you don't get even further than that to the NBA Finals, I want to see you get fired. I don't care. There's expectations with this Knicks team now that, like I said, they didn't have in years past because they sucked. This team is good enough to make it to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, if not the NBA Finals. But if you can't close out a game, if you lose to the Atlanta Hawks the first round, it's unacceptable. It's a failure of a season, complete failure. And last game, Mikal Bridges, Mr. Mikal 6 picks Bridges, scored 0 points. 0 points. He scored as much points as me, you, and Alec combined. 0 points. We scored as much points as us sitting here talking right now than Mikal Bridges. I'm tired of him. I don't care if he had a better game tonight. I don't care what he does the rest of the postseason. If the Knicks, like I said, if the Knicks do not make the NBA Finals this year, or if they don't get at least the Eastern Conference Finals, you trade Cat away, you trade Bridges along the way with him, you trade a bench player, and you trade draft picks, and you go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because I'm sick and tired of this team always continuing to just drive me bananas. Because Cat, like, he's having a great game right now, but like he flails his arms, he whines and complains about every foul. I'm like, foul, oh my God, it's a foul, man. I mean, like, it's just so, like, come on, just play. I get it. I get that you're getting fouled a lot of times, but you gotta let it go. Get your composure in straight. Mikal Bridges, I better see like at least like 15 or 20 points from you every single game. No excuses. 0 points is unacceptable for the amount of draft capital we traded you for. And right now the Knicks are rolling. They just took a 24-point lead. So it looks like they're going to tie this series, provided they don't mess it up, because they did the last 2 games on the last possession where they had big leads, and last game they came back, had a chance to win, and completely messed it up because they didn't know how to close out a game. And Mike Brown saying that quote, like, that just absolutely ticked me off. And he refused to change the starting lineup. He refused to put Mikal Bridges coming off the bench. And I'm like, whatever, I get it. Like, it's like, nope, I'm going to stick to the process, and we'll see what happens. You know what? It's working so far because you're up 22 points. But also, like, if something isn't working, I want to see other players that have been producing all year get some playing time. Mohamed Diawara hasn't played once this entire postseason. I don't know why. He's been very good, like, as a secondary scorer off the bench. Like, if someone's struggling, like if Cat's struggling, for instance, you get Diawara, another big man off the bench. He could score. He could shoot threes. He could defend. I haven't seen him once this entire series. Jeremy Sohan, we got him for defense, and we haven't played him once. If CJ McCollum is driving against Cat because he can't defend worth a damn, why don't you just bring Jeremy Sohan in? Have him guard him. If OG's busy guarding someone else, if Bridges is busy guarding someone else, if Mitchell Robinson is busy guarding someone else, bring Jeremy Sohan off the bench. You have him. You have guys off the bench who can play, and yet you choose not to play them. You play Jose Alvarado. He's having a great game tonight. I wish you played him more in the non-Brunson minutes. Landry Shamet, he's barely played. Deuce McBride is playing okay. But, like, this is a coach, Mike Brown, that utilizes the full extent of his bench, yet he doesn't have guys like Diawara and Sohan playing. So I want to see that going forward. It hasn't happened tonight. I've seen a ton of Clarkson and Deuce tonight, but give me more guys off the bench. Get different matchups in there if something's not working. Because if you failed to guard CJ McCollum, who is literally everywhere, like, oh, CJ McCollum here, CJ McCollum there, CJ McCollum everywhere, McCollum. If you let McCollum score and beat you, he will, because he is a veteran player. He's been in the league for a long time, and he knows how to score and win games. And he did that the last 2 times. Losing the last 2 games by a combined 2 points proves to me the Knicks, including tonight, they should have already swept the Hawks tonight. It should have been a 4-game series. This is why I said that they better win the series in no more than 5 games. Well, guess what? Because you failed to execute in those final 2 games, you're down to 2 games to 1, and now you're fighting for your life, trying to tie the series and go back to the Garden to where hopefully you can get up 3-2 in the series. And you're up 23 points right now with under 10 minutes left to go. It seems like you're going to do that, pending. We'll see how my reaction feels later. But you have to play with a sense of urgency like you have tonight, the rest of the series. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because if you think this is difficult, if you think CJ McCollum is difficult to guard, just wait until you get a potential Boston matchup and have to face Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. If you get past them, wait till you have to face potentially the Pistons, although the Pistons just lost a second time to the Orlando Magic, and now the Magic have a 2-1 series lead, which nobody here had. Everyone here either had the Pistons in 5 or the Pistons full-on sweep. That's not going to happen anymore. But if that happens, you better get your act straight, because right now that was terrible last night. But luckily, I feel like this game is in the Knicks' grasp, and they're going to get the job done, hopefully, with 9 minutes left with a 23-point lead. But that was so bad from Mikal Bridges and from Mike Brown's comments after the game. He's too nice of a guy to get on his players or to the media. He's like too nice of a guy. He's like, he doesn't get on his players. He doesn't like, hey, if you do that again, guess what? I'm starting you off the bench. I'm going to start Deuce McBride instead of you. How about that? How about some backbone, Mike Brown? Instead, he's like, no, I'm just going to, I've seen what Mikal's done all year. I'm just going to go let the same starting 5 happen, and we'll see how it goes. And it worked for now. But if you're facing Boston or potentially Detroit or whoever, Cleveland, in the later rounds, that just shows you have no backbone, and you don't care about egging your guys on to get better as the series goes on. But it's just so annoying, man. And like I said, if Knicks lose the series, there's going to be firings. There's going to be firings. There's going to be trades. Cat and Bridges are gone. See ya. I don't want to see you anymore. I want Giannis in here if the Knicks lose this first. If the Knicks lose this series, Mike Brown's gone. I don't care what anyone what it says. Thibodeau, at least last year, he got you to the Eastern Conference Finals, even though he started his stars into the ground. But at least he got you there, and then he got fired for it. I was never a fan of the firing for him. I would have liked to see him get on one more season. Then if he doesn't get there, fine. The firing's valid. Then you can bring in Mike Brown. But Mike Brown right now, like, you've got to have more sense of urgency. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense from you saying, like, can't promise we're going to come back in this series. That is a loser mentality. I don't want to hear any loser mentality here. The New York Knicks are a winning organization now, and they're trying to win a championship now. Do not give me that nonsense and play better.
Well, I have Fresh Founder Friday later on today, so I have a tough act to follow. So listen, let me just say something to both of you. I'm going to start off with Alec here. This is both bottom line disappointment for the Rockets overall as a whole. Like, no Luka Doncic, no Austin Reeves for the Lakers. LeBron is turning back the clock. The one time he turns back the clock, it's against the Rockets in the playoffs. It's a joke.
It speaks to a franchise-wide dysfunction of an organization. This is a joke. A complete joke. We deluded ourselves into thinking that last year was the first of many years. Well, it was the first of many years. And it might end up being the last one here if serious changes are not made. We have to make serious changes. It's a joke.
Big time. And as far as Kevin, I'm going to say this right now, Kevin. the New York Knicks haven't won a title since 1973. I know Knicks fans are just eager for a title, but when CJ McCollum, who's been acting like a dirtbag all series long, is getting under the Knicks' skin and they're winning games, that's the worst part of it all. It's not even just they're losing games; they're losing games to a guy who's being a total prick.
There's no Trae Young this time. He's not on the team anymore. And we're still losing
exactly.
to the Hawks, and a different guy takes his place in CJ McCollum. And like he shouldn't, it shouldn't be hard to mitigate one guy who's beating you. Literally, nobody on the Hawks can score. Literally, they're staying in this series because of their defense and because of CJ McCollum absolutely carrying. His back must be hurting from carrying the team so much this series because he's the only guy who can beat you, and you let him beat you twice. That can't happen.
Yeah. All right. So now that you two are all fired up and ready to go, let's get into some sports talk for real this time. Actually, we're gonna start off with Major League Baseball because we do have some breaking news out of Boston. Alex Cora was fired by the Red Sox after 8 seasons in Boston. Former World Series champion, took the Boston Red Sox to the playoffs. I think 5 or 6 out of his 8 years there. Made the playoffs last year, lost to Cam Schlittler. If I had to guess what was going on and why they fired him, and here's the crazy thing about this firing. The Red Sox won 17-1 today with Garrett Crochet on the mound. And ownership still fired him anyway. Now, the reason why this is weird, if I had to guess, is because of the losing early on and getting dominated by the Yankees in a home series. I think those two things alone cost Alex Cora's job. Plus, Boston was not contender in the AL East, in the AL worthy for the last few years. And I think they thought a change had to be made. But it wasn't just Alex Cora. A couple coaches on the Red Sox were fired as well. So think of it. The Red Sox fired their coach, but yet Carlos Mendoza and Rob Thompson still have jobs. Kevin, what's your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, Matt, to give you a bit of a correction, it was more than just Alex Cora that got fired. It was him. It was the hitting coach, Peter Fatsi, the bench coach, Ramon Vasquez, the assistant hitting coach, Dylan Lawson, the third base coach, Kyle Hudson, and the hitting strategy coach, Joe Cronin, that also got fired. And the game planning coach, Jason Varitek, will be reassigned to a new role. And the Boston Red Sox are going to be getting a different new interim head coach. I think it's I think Chad Kelly's his name. I forget what his name is. But yeah, they completely clean house, not just Alex Cora. And I think it's a shock, like at least after we just won a game 17-1, you would think that like, okay, we've had a rough stretch. It happens like every season. Maybe this is the win that sparks them, gets some momentum going, and maybe they could start winning games again. I'm like, nope, they just decided to pull the plug after a dominant win like that. I feel like, listen, I get why they fired him, but this was a terrible time to fire him after a win like that against an AL East opponent in the Baltimore Orioles. You're going to be competing with all year. So I feel that win, I think, but okay, maybe you should wait until toward the end of the season, and if the playoffs are out of reach, go and fire him there. But no, they choose to fire him at probably a bad time whenever you just dominated a game and put up 17 runs. That's very rare. That's very rare to do. In Major League Baseball, score more than 15 runs. That's really hard to do. And also the fact that, the Red Sox, they've looked not good this year. I'm going to be completely honest. Even before the Yankees series, the Red Sox just haven't looked like themselves. And I do think they're missing Alex Bregman because he decided to walk and go to the Cubs. And he was one of the big catalysts for them on offense. You got to keep in mind, last year when the Red Sox started the year, they still had Rafi Devers and Alex Bregman. Two guys who were big superstars on that team and were the catalysts offensively for why the Boston Red Sox were actually, on the fence of being a playoff team and being a great team. Now both of those guys are gone because you decided to trade Rafael Devers away because he refused to play for first base because they wanted to bring Alex Bregman in and they wanted Devers to be comfortable playing first base. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then they let him walk. And I think 3 of the 4 guys that they got in return for that trade are now elsewhere. The only guy that they kept, I think, is James Bayo, I think it is. So I think he's still in their minor league system. But that's besides the point. Then Bregman walks. So who do you bring in? You bring in the former Yankee prospect, Caleb Durbin, which came from Milwaukee in the Devin Williams trade. And Devin Williams is now a Met, and he's doing horrible. Sorry, not sorry, Mets fans. But he hasn't been out. Durbin has been fine, but he's no Alex Bregman. He's not. Roman Anthony, their big young player who they signed and locked down for 8 years. He hasn't looked like himself. He hasn't been hitting the ball well. He's missed the last, I think, 4 games due to injury, and there's nothing the Red Sox can do about that. I get that. But the hitting is not consistent enough. Their pitching is like hit or miss. A lot of hit or miss. Garrett Crochet doesn't look like himself. He pitched beautifully today, but like you look at the games before that game, he doesn't look like an AL Cy Young candidate like he was last year. Ranger Suarez has been a complete dud as far as I'm concerned. I think their younger pitchers early, and Peyton Tolley had a great game against the Yankees. They look like they're the best pitchers that Boston's got right now. And I feel like it's a culmination of all of the frustrations, the struggles, the inconsistencies with scoring with guys in runners in scoring position. The offense isn't consistently hitting. The pitching, it's good one day and then it's bad the next day. That's kind of like the Yankees whenever they're going through their 5-game skid. Hitting's good, pitching's bad. Pitching's good, hitting's bad. Red Sox are going through the motions right now, but they actually fired Alex Cora. And you know what? I kind of commend them for actually having the guts to actually fire Alex Cora because when things are going wrong. Whereas I've been wanting the Yankees to do this and fire Aaron Boone for so long, but they never do. They instead they extend him, and I say like, no, Boone's our guy, he's fine. And like I completely get the frustration from Boston Red Sox fans. And Cora's a good coach. He's going to get hired like pretty instantly. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's the Astros because they're struggling pretty bad. Maybe it's the Phillies because he has connections with the president, Dave Dombrowski. Maybe the Mets because the Mets are on a massive downward spiral, and they fired Mendoza, and he's like a good candidate. So I think he's going to get picked up easily, but I think this is just the worst time to do so after a win like that.
Yeah, it's honestly bad timing and bad place. Yeah, that's really what it was. And Alex Cora is a former World Series champion. His resume speaks for itself. I mean, listen, I don't like the Boston Red Sox, but they were competitive with Alex Cora through most of the time. And I think you mentioned a couple of big things. Getting rid of Alex Bregman, letting Rafael Devers walk, the main stars. They don't have star players. And then you mentioned Roman Anthony. He's been since they gave him that contract. He hasn't been a star. He's been a good contributor. And like I said, they've been getting embarrassed by the Yankees for a little bit. You go back to that playoff game with Cam Schlittler on the mound in the Bronx, and then Cam Schlittler comes back to Boston and humiliates them again. So that just tells you everything you need to know about Boston. Alec, what are your thoughts?
Oh, this was a culmination of terrible move after terrible move by FSG in the front office by Craig Breslow. But Alex Cora, oh boy, this was not a good start for the Red Sox. 10-17, or not even 40 games into the season, and this happens. Yeah, yes, he served a 1-year absence because of the sign stealing scandal, but they've been less than consistent ever since he returned from his 1-year suspension. The extension was also notable because there's a recent change in baseball operations leadership staff. Because Shane Bloom was fired in September 23, Breslow replaced him. And given that change, it was fair to wonder why if Cora was going to stay after the last year of his contract. The fact it was extended for 2027 showed that the Red Sox had confidence in his leadership. But the performance this year may be bad enough to have second thoughts about it. Well, you're Abreu, oh boy. And Wilson Contreras. Well, he and Abreu and Contreras are the only ones performing above average. Everyone else, dreadful. And, of course, the first one to fall is almost typically going to be the manager for that matter. That's, oh boy. This is not a good look for the Red Sox. It's going to take a miracle for this team to have a significant comeback.
Yeah. So the Red Sox fire Alex Cora, but yet Rob Thompson and Carlos Mendoza still have jobs. Let that set in for a second. It just doesn't sound right. It really doesn't sound right.
It doesn't.
Oh, boy. Just bad. Okay, so now we're going to go to the NFL. The NFL draft has officially concluded. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over how we think our teams did. Now, it is just the Giants and the Steelers because John is MIA for today. I don't know what's going on, but don't worry, we still have a lot of content to put out. Let me just go over what the Giants did. They drafted a couple linebackers, Colton Hood, which I really liked a lot. They did draft Francis Mauigoa, which I really like a lot, and they drafted among their picks that they made. And listen, I'm gonna say right now about the Francis Mauigoa pick. For Giant fans I know who are complaining about it, relax. Because here's why. Yes, the Giants' offensive line was top 10 in the NFL last year, but you want to know something? You think Andrew Thomas is really going to be healthy for a second consecutive year? That's a big question you got to think to yourself. And the answer is maybe not. Because I've seen Andrew Thomas since the day he got drafted in 2020. He's always hurt. This year was an anomaly because he's always injured. He always has something going on. But you know what? The Giants' offensive line, they were great with Jackson Dart. But I don't think it's a bad thing. And let's say Andrew Thomas does stay healthy for an entire season again. You could always put Francis Mauigoa at guard, his natural position. So, for those who are complaining about the Francis Mauigoa pick, chill. And also, John Harbaugh has said, since he got to New York, games are always won up front. Offensive side, defensive side. And he's sticking to that philosophy, and I don't blame him one bit. Like that's what I'm gonna say right now. Kev, do you agree?
Absolutely. Like if you look at the all the players round by round that the Giants have, Arvell Reese somehow fell to them at 5. I couldn't believe
know how that happened.
Arvell Reese should have been a Jet at pick 2. That's how good this guy is because he, if you look at his tape, he tackles everything on the field. So he will fix the tackling issue that the Giants have had last season and a lot of seasons before that. And you get Micah McFadden back, that only adds to it. And of course, getting Tremaine Edmonds, who he's going to be playing alongside with, is only going to boost that linebacking core tremendously. And people were questioning if the pick and say like, oh, we're going to put him in as an edge rusher. Where are you going to play him? I know Malik Neighbors, had some, comments about it. Like, where are you going to play him? Like, I think you could have had a better pick. And relax. What John Harbaugh is going to do is they're going to play him as an inside and weak side linebacker, not as an edge rusher. So he's going to be playing his natural position, and he's going to be tackling people left and right. And I love the words that he was using, like after he got drafted, saying like when you're trying to tackle someone, you got to have think violently, like I want to win. And like, I love that mentality. Already love him as a draft pick. And like I said, I thought because I think almost everybody, including the analysts, thought that Arvell Reese was going to go 2 or 3 to the Jets or Cardinals. Didn't happen. That's why every person who had the Giants pick, they were either mocking, Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson, Sonny Styles. They were thinking, that if it was going to be any linebacker, it was probably going to be Sonny Styles because naturally you would think that's where he would fall at 5. But since Arvell Reese was there, out of the sheer luck and the stupidity of the Arizona Cardinals drafting Jeremiah Love, the Giants had Reese and they insta-picked him like that. And that was Harbaugh's number 1 guy that we found out afterwards. Arvell Reese was at the top of his draft board list as their highest rated non-quarterback prospect. And I couldn't believe we actually got Arvell Reese. That's a great pick. The Francis Mauigoa pick, I was a little bit skeptical of it, just like every other Giants fan. I mean, Caleb Downs was right there. I would have thought, we're going to get Reese and Downs. That's a slam dunk. And Mauigoa was like a really, wow, I thought they were going to go Downs. But then you look under the tape, and then you start to think of a moment later. And you're right, Matt. If Andrew Thomas gets hurt, Mauigoa is an instant replacement at left tackle right there. Easy fix. And the reason that the Giants' offensive line was so good last year was because Andrew Thomas was healthy. There was nobody getting past Andrew Thomas on the left side at all.
Right.
And Jermaine Illuminor, the presence that he had at right tackle, there's a reason why we extended him. Because those 2 guys, Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor, when they're healthy, no edge rusher is getting past them. And that's good. And Francis Mauigoa, and you're right. If Andrew Thomas does stay healthy, you slide him in as our new starting right guard because we haven't signed Greg Van Roten. We signed a bunch of guard depth guys like Daniel Falili and other guys like that. We're like, okay, it's good that you have depth, but I don't anticipate any of these guys being the starter at right guard. And so I'd rather get a guard in the draft. I didn't expect to get Francis Mauigoa that high. But I think if you were going to have any guy transition from tackle to guard, it's Maui Noah, because usually in college, if you're a good tackle, then you can become an NFL All-Pro guard, because usually most of the time, when you're a tackle in college, you translate better to guard in the NFL. So I think like that's what's going to happen here for Francis Maui Noah. I love the words that he used after he got drafted. He's like, Jackson Dart, I'm going to die for you, man. I'm ready.
Yes.
That's what you like to hear out of offensive lineman right there. So after hearing that and seeing his tape and the way they're going to utilize him into guard, that's a good pick. The third pick after that, the Texans, I will never forgive you, because they leapfrogged us and traded up to get Caden McDonald.
Yes.
I wanted to replace Dexter Lawrence at defensive tackle position, but they took him. Sucks. But then they addressed corner, and they drafted Colton Hood in the second round with that fifth pick. And obviously, there was other corners that could have been there. You could have had Jermon McCoy. You could have Damani Jackson. But they went with the second Tennessee corner that didn't have injury risk. McCoy was injury risk, and I think the Raiders took him. So the Giants, I feel like they made an under the hood, no pun intended, good pick there in Colton Hood, and it addresses the corner position. So he'll slot into where Cordell Flott was as a new starting corner for us. So an actual good pick. The next pick, they traded up with the Cleveland Browns and got a third-round pick. And they were able to get a wide receiver, Malachi Fields, the receiver from Notre Dame. Now, I thought they were going to get maybe like a Denzel Boston at the time, because he was still there. I thought maybe they would have gotten him in the second round or something like that. But they decided to go for a guy like Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. And you look at that name, it's like, oh, it's not really like a well-known wide receiver name. But look at his tape. He doesn't drop passes. Now, we've had receivers on this Giants team that have had too many drops in years past. And I feel like that was a problem in some of the games that Jackson Dart was doing. He would have a perfect pass, and the guy drops it like 2 or 3 times. Nothing that Jackson Dart can do about it, right? It's just like you got to catch the ball. And Malachi Fields, he has sticky hands. He doesn't drop the ball. He's a guy that can get any route he wants. And I feel like that's probably a steal that the Giants got in the draft, just like how Cam Scadaboo last year, they got him in the 4th round. You got to remember that. And Scadaboo is their starting running back 1. So I feel like this is another steal for the Giants. And him and Neighbors in tandem, I feel like can be really good, along with pairing him with Mooney, Austin, and of course getting Likely. You have really good threats on this Giants receiving core now. Now that you've got another receiver in tandem, and we could possibly get an OBJ reunion. We'll see about that after the draft. And then you have the 3 last picks that the Giants made. They did address defensive tackle by getting Bobby Jamison Travis, the DT from Auburn. I feel like that's kind of a depth signing at DT, because it seems like the move is to sign DJ Reader, the veteran defensive tackle, after the draft, which would just conclude today. So he'll slide in. Maybe give Darius Alexander some more playing time, because we got him tackle. The next pick, J.C. Davis, the offensive lineman from Illinois. I've liked this pick for 2 reasons. Number one, like you said, he could be another guy that goes into slot if Andrew Thomas gets hurt, because he plays left tackle in college, or he could transition to guard and be a backup for John Runyon if he gets hurt. Because John Runyon, you got to remember, John Runyon is on the last year of his deal. So if they don't re-sign him, you have J.C. Davis right there as your left guard. So that's a good under-the-radar signing too. And their last pick that they made was the linebacker out of BYU, Jack Kelly. Now, I feel like they're going to use him as more of a special teams unit, but he's a guy that you can always slot in the linebacker core for depth too. So overall, I think the Giants had a really good draft. Great first draft by Harbaugh as under the New York Giants organization. I thought they did a really good job. I do like that trade up to get Fields. I feel like that's like I said, I feel like that was a very under the radar steal that's going to come into fruition. As what you're going to see the full season, but I really love what the Giants did overall this draft.
Hey, listen, they didn't make any sexy picks that are going to jump out at you, but they made some good picks that I think are going to be useful. I mean, sometimes the draft is not always about picking the best player available and just trying to go with the flashy picks. Sometimes you have to just go with what's going to help our team out,
right? Without
blowing the media's mind and be like, oh my God, look at how significant this move is. Like, they did some good things that they addressed some needs, they add depth, and that's what the Giants did. I had no problem with it. Now I'm going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers side of things. Now, I'm going to mention Pittsburgh when we do our draft winners and losers, and I know Alec is right here, but I'm just going to say it right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers made a big future commitment when they drafted Drew Aller in the 3rd round. They also addressed offensive line. They got Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama in the 2nd round. They got tight end later on in the draft, and they had I think 8 or 9 picks. So Pittsburgh was very busy this weekend as far as drafting is concerned. But can I get your take on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Did you like what they did?
I'm more so and so. It depends on what round you're talking about. Max Iheanacho is raw but high upside with him in the offensive tackle. He did play 1 year in college. He just started playing football in college, but this game is polished for where he's even if its best football is still in front of him. For that, if the fear was with Mekhi Lemon is that he's going to be another crash out receiver with us, like with Antonio Brown and George Pickens in the past.
Right.
And I feel crash out receivers are a growing trend, and I just don't want that trend to continue. But I mean, I've been having enough of that with Pickens being gone. Now, Iheanacho, this addresses one uncertainty: Broderick Jones's future. Will he or won't he stay here? He's raw, but as high. Iheanacho is raw, but high upside. It's not, and as you said, Matt, it's not about the sexy pick all the time.
Yeah.
It's more about the right fit about it. Jeremy Bernard also fits this model. Not the sexy pick, but the right fit. It's another 2nd round receiver that he should fit in as our wide receiver 3 in the short and the intermediate game, who should mesh with whoever starting QB is, whether it be Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard, or Drew Aller. But since when has Aaron Rodgers not been happy with anything? Literally anything. Oh my goodness. This saga is going on forever and ever and ever. We were expecting to make some sort of a splash at wide receiver, and Bernard may seem like a risk at the moment, but the short term, he should be an excellent wide receiver 3 right behind Michael Pittman Jr. and DK Metcalf. And I feel drafting Lemon at the 1st round with us, given our history with wide receivers crashing out, wouldn't have made sense considering he too has the potential to be a crash out receiver.
Yes.
Now, I'll say this about Drew Aller. Penn State quarterbacks in the NFL have historically not panned out.
Yes.
We've seen this with Christian Hackenberg, Sean Clifford, and Aller is going to be a huge question mark. The only reason why I see this happen, this draft pick happening, was one thing: the uncertainty with Aaron Rodgers. He did miss a lot of a season with the broken ankle, but despite that bump, he continued to build on his arm talent that helped Penn State reach the CFP semifinals the year before last season. He is continuing to find his versatility on the ground and extending plays with his feet. And they just waved off a goal by Minnesota, which could have ended it. All right. But this is more about uncertainty with Aaron Rodgers, why this is made. Still, I would have rather wanted to draft a quarterback next year, considering that year's quarterback draft class is deeper than this year. Dalen Everett should be a backup corner, but that's more because we don't have a true CB2, true backup corner. It's more about depth behind Joey Porter Jr. and Jamel Dean right behind. Oh, yeah, they wait to go off because of a kicking motion. That's why.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they waved that off immediately. But I like the pick of Everett. There were still a lot of names I would have preferred over him, but he was surprisingly good to combine. However, combine doesn't mean everything.
Not
you have
always.
to look at the game film as well to see how he can pan out. How about this? Gennings Dunker, which basically is the most Steeler pick ever. I mean, just look at how he looked and how he plays the game. Oh, he donned the black and gold with the Iowa Hawkeyes, and he should slot in as a guard. He's a throwback guard as much as there is one. He doesn't love someone who wears a mullet, who's a monster, who does espresso shots to get jacked before games.
Oh my God.
There is concerns about stiffness, and he cannot be left alone in space. So it makes sense that he was announced as a guard, but he fits in with the right system. Mike McCarthy is saying with this pick that we're leaning much more into power and gap concepts on the ground with Rico Dowdle, because Dowdle is a power back. Jalen Warren is the speed back. So there were other guards that were there, but with Dunker, the Steelers are leaning and following with the running scheme change. And there may be a realistic world that where he's a fan favorite, forming a nice duo with Zach Frazier. This is a solid pick. And the last one of the first 4 rounds is Caden Wetjen, who is supposed to be helping out the return game. That's why we meet the selection for Wetjen. We're renewing emphasis on kick returns, and Wetjen is going to help out with that. Riley Nowatkowski is for the tight end room. And this creates a log jam in the tight end room, but he's going to be our 3rd tight end behind Pat Frymuth and Darnell Washington. Gabe Rubio, 6th round DT, just depth on the defensive tackle side because the future is solidified between Derek Harmon and Keanu Benton. Robert Spears Jennings, depth at safety. Eli Heidenreich, depth at running back. I believe he's going to be on the practice squad, but it depends on how things go out. Well, by the way, the Penguins scored on the power play.
That's
Guess
correct.
who? Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby. So
There
we
you
got a
go.
little update in Pittsburgh there. Listen, overall, I think Pittsburgh had a draft that I think could have been better than desired. Like I said, when we go over my winners and losers of the draft, Pittsburgh name will be mentioned. I'm just a little shaky on the Drew Aller pick, and the reason why is because if you were going to take a quarterback, this isn't the class to do so. Same with the Arizona Cardinals with Carson Beck.
I mean, if you're picking a quarterback in this draft, you're putting yourself in a lose-lose scenario. It's damned if you do and damned if you don't for teams picking quarterbacks.
Yeah, but the Arizona Cardinals made 99 other mistakes with their draft. We'll get into that when we get to winners and losers.
I see what you did there.
Well, before we actually get into the DAS Technology Consulting ad, there's one last story I want to touch on too before we get into our winners and losers, and this is the ongoing story between Mike Vrabel and former athletic reporter Diana Rossini and their inappropriate relationship that was marked by photos from 6 years ago. Apparently, this has been going on for the last 6 years now, allegedly. I mean, from what we don't know if this is the actual truth, but it's gone out. Mike Vrabel's family is probably really upset, same with Diana Rossini's husband and her 2 kids. And Mike Vrabel was not present with the Patriots in their draft room. He is spending time to get counseling and trying to help rebuild with his family. But whether this is true or whether this is not true about what was going on between those two, this is just not a good look. Now, I personally said that Mike Vrabel should resign, but it's not going to happen. And the reason why I don't think it's going to happen is because, 1, Robert Kraft's not going to let that happen. 2, it wasn't like it was a conflict of interest. Diana Rossini wasn't a Titans reporter at the time. She was working for ESPN at the time. So there was no conflict of interest to make it even worse. Now, if she was a reporter for the Tennessee Titans at the time, then that's a conflict of interest. But Mike Vrabel, I think, is going to try and do everything he can to prepare his reputation. Now, if he does resign, which we don't know if he's going to do that, then that's a big problem for the Patriots. So, anyway, Alec, what are your thoughts on this whole thing with Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini?
Oh, boy. Counseling just doesn't fit it. These two were in a relationship for, 6 years? They're both just as guilty as one another. It's one thing to have an affair with someone, but 6 years, you're just pushing it too much. Now, the reason why I don't see Mike Vrabel resigning is one thing. Results. Robert Kraft is, as he said, is not going to let that happen because Mike Vrabel took the Patriots to a Super Bowl in his first year with the Patriots.
Yes.
And he is coaching excellent results with New England, for the matter. And his sports doesn't have morals, for all we know, for the matter. If they do, then Vrabel would be out of here the instant this news broke out. So as to save face for him. Now, but because there are no morals in sports, they're going to keep him because Robert Kraft doesn't care about whatever scandal that he is going up against. Mm-mm. Keep in mind, Robert Kraft himself got involved in a scandal himself with a massage parlor. Don't forget about that. And not to mention that this Patriots team has been riddled with scandals left and right. Oh, no, I'm not going to talk about the Flakegate and Spygate. Those are on-the-field scandals. We're talking about off-the-field scandals. Aaron Hernandez and Tom Brady leaving Bridget Moynihan for Giselle at the time and Bridget was literally pregnant at the time. Well, what is Queen Organizations? We may never know.
Yeah. morals are go out the window, unfortunately, in professional sports. We had a little conversation yesterday about how NFL athletes are not looked at as role models today because of the amount of athletes that go through felony charges and how they're not entirely saints off the field, ice, or court. We've talked about that before last episode. Kevin, what are your thoughts on everything going on with Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini?
The whole situation is just an absolute cluster for sure. When we first heard about it, they were the pictures with them in the hotel and holding hands and stuff, and then we hear about a potential a AJ Brown trade, and now that was before those photos were released, and then oh, no wonder AJ Brown what she was pushing an AJ Brown trade because she was having relations with Mike Vrabel.
Right.
And when you found out that both of them were married, and then it's absolutely disgusting. And they both denied it whenever they were approached. They were both denying, no, we're just here with other colleagues, and those photos have no merit. Mike Vrabel said it was laughable to suggest that they were in a relationship. Then you find out about the photos that they've been together for 6 years. Yeah, doesn't seem laughable to me, Mike Vrabel. It seems pretty serious. Maybe that there's a reason you're going to rehab because you had to have some tough discussions and conversations with your loved ones and stuff, your wife for sure. I'm sure I can't imagine how she's feeling. And also you also have to consider the fact that with Diana Rossini deciding to step down from The Athletic now.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's because of that whole situation. But there's two ways I can think of that why Diana Rossini left. Either she left on her own accord because of the whole drama surrounding her and Vrabel's potential or relationship, or two, somebody at The Athletic paid her a good chunk of money to leave to make sure there's no bad PR press for The Athletic and their company because they don't want to be involved in that drama as much as she does. So yes. I feel it's one of those two cases to why Rossini is not part of The Athletic anymore. And I think that her reputation, she wanted to save what little reputation that she had left. Is the only reason I can think of for why she would either do what she did.
And the thing you gotta understand is that Diana Rossini doesn't have a job over this.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing you got to keep in mind. It's she wouldn't have resigned if this wasn't a problem. Now, whether or not someone was paying her under the rug, that's completely unknown. But I know she, like you said, she was doing this to save face because if she stayed at The Athletic, more backlash would have been coming into The Athletic, and The Athletic probably would have had a bad reputation. So Diana did the right thing. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know exactly what went down behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. But from everything that we're hearing, it was an inappropriate relationship. And I feel horrible for Mike Vrabel's wife. Horrible.
And Diana Rossini's husband.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Rossini's husband and Vrabel's wife deserve so much better than this. Because it's one thing to have an affair. I mean, that alone is bad. But to be cheating on your significant other for 6 years is just flat out unacceptable.
If you or a loved one have been subject to your partner being involved in an undercover affair for 6 years, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
That's good, Alec. I didn't expect that coming from you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Minnesota just won. Matt Boldy, they had an overtime goal taken away from him for a kicking motion. They will not take this one away from him. Wow. This series is tied.
So it is a 2-2 series. Minnesota wins 3-2 at home. They'll be going back to Dallas for Game 5. What a competitive series that has been. All right. So when we come back from our break, we will go over our winners and losers for the NFL draft. We'll go briefly into NHL and also NBA. And then I have Fresh Finder Fried. And who knows what I'm going to say. Kevin tried to guess earlier today, and he was wrong. But anyways, this show is sponsored by DAS Technology Consulting. DAS Technology Consulting is there for you for all your IT data center infrastructure needs. And if you need to know more about what they do to help you out, here's Darren Sirianni. Take a listen.
Our mission is to deliver high quality, scalable, and secure data center services that ensure seamless operations for clients across various industries, offering best-in-class data center services all under one roof.
Again, thank you, DA Technology Consulting, for everything you do and the business that you bring to people with data centers. Now, there is a little bit of controversy with data centers out there, but I'm not going to bring that up because why would I bring that up for DA Technology Consulting? Thank you, Darren Sirianni. Anyways, welcome to hour number 2 of 4 Square Sports. Matt Sirianni, Kevin Zalskal, Salad Nava. John Welch is out for MIA reasons. I don't know what's going on. I hope he's okay. But we have a lot to get into, and we're going to get into NHL, NBA, and also our winners and losers for the 2026 NFL Draft. So, we're going to start off with our losers because that's the way things should be. You start off with the losers before you get into the good stuff. I'm going to go first. So we're each going to have 2 winners and 2 losers. So keep that in mind. I'm going to start off with my losers first. Okay. I mentioned the Arizona Cardinals are going to be involved in my winners and losers, and no surprise, they're a loser. Here's why. Jeremiah Love, unless James Conner announces retirement, you don't go running back at 3rd overall, especially with how bad the running back value has gone down in recent years. And even though Jeremiah Love is talented, he's a late 1st round pick, if not an early 2nd round pick. And again, it was just an unnecessary pick for that position. You didn't fill a need. You basically got the best player available. And even though sometimes best player available isn't always the best thing, it's not the worst thing either. But in this case, you went with the best player available, and you looked like idiots doing it. So the Arizona Cardinals are a loser. And then you also factor in Carson Beck getting drafted, which I was not a fan of at all. I think that the Cardinals should have stuck with Jacoby Brissett this year, and because of how good the draft class for quarterbacks next year looks, I would have just left it off from drafting a quarterback, and then maybe go after one next year. And if you had the number 1 pick in the draft, Arch Manning is sitting right there. But instead, you went quarterback in the 3rd round, which is always not the best idea because 3rd round quarterback picks typically tend to become starters. So you're pulling the trigger on a 3rd round quarterback pick, and I'm not really too sure how it's going to look. So that's my first loser. My second loser, and I hate to do this to Alex, the Pittsburgh Steelers are another one of my losers. And the reason why is because the Drew Aller thing didn't really make much sense. Same thing, it didn't make much sense. And I don't think they really had a slam dunk draft compared to other teams. I mean, I'm not going to knock on the Browns because the Browns actually had a good draft. Same with the Jets. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, their offensive tackle pick wasn't the most glorious pick, but I also thought they could have had better picks. And then, like I said, the Drew Aller pick also put them in that position right there. So that's my losers. All right, Kevin, who are your losers?
Well, my first loser to start off, it's got to be the Rams. For a big reason, I think, is drafting Ty Simpson as high as they did with their first pick. That is, if you want to talk about reach, that is a big reach on Ty Simpson, which he should have been a 2nd rounder at best. You pick him at pick number, what was it, 13?
13.
Yeah, 13. When you could have had Ruben Bain was there, Vega Ione was there, Makai Lemon was there, Casey Conception was there, Rutledge, Peter Woods, Omar Cooper Jr. was there. What are we doing here? That's a massive reach. What's even more head scratching about that move is the fact that you just extended Matt Stafford, and he won the MVP last year, and he made a deep playoff run. So why are you drafting Ty Simpson when you just extended your star quarterback? Now, I guess you're planning long term and you're going to put him as backup, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of a slap in the face to Matt Stafford, don't you think?
It is.
Because it's kind of the same thing with the best example I could think of was when Aaron Rodgers was still the quarterback of the Packers, and then the Packers went ahead and drafted Jordan Love in that one draft, and then Aaron Rodgers obviously wasn't happy with that. He's like, "Why are you drafting the quarterback? I'm already good. Am I not good enough? I mean, I've been Mr. Packer for so long. I've been Mr. Reliable. Why are you?" So you can even go on a smaller scale. And when Kirk Cousins was still the Falcons quarterback, they decided to draft Michael Penix Jr. when they did, which is also very head scratching. And obviously Kirk Cousins ended up leaving for a bag somewhere else. I still want his agent. And then Penix ended up, being a starter for them for a little while, and now Tua is going to be their starter. So it's a very head scratching move, and for that reason is why I picked the Rams as my first loser. My second loser, I'm sorry, Dad, it's going to be the Niners. The Niners, I don't think, had the best draft because I think everyone here, before Trent Williams re-signed with the team for an extension, you kind of had the sense that they were going to go offensive tackle, like with their first pick, and he ended up re-signing. And whenever we did our mock draft episode, I did have the Niners going wide receiver with Chris Brazell II. They did draft a wide receiver with their first pick, so I was correct on that. It's DeJon Stribling, the wide receiver from Ole Miss. Other than that, they really haven't had any impressive picks after that. I mean, they had Kalen Black to their running back room that already includes Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. I felt that was a wasted pick there with their third pick. They drafted 2 offensive tackles in the later rounds. Again, I feel like those are our depth pieces. I feel like no real guy is going to be starting for them besides Stribling if you're going to slot him in to like pair up with, a Mike Evans, or if, Ricky Pearsall gets hurt, you put Stribling in. I feel like other than that pick, it's not really like the best picks for them after that. They're just kind of throwing darts to the wall and seeing what sticks. So I have Niners as my second loser. So Rams and Niners are my losers.
You know what? Those are not bad choices. The Niners, they had a very forgettable draft.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you, like, who they really drafted that's going to stand out because they drafted a bunch of guys who are, like you said, are just experimental picks to see what they can do. And I don't think they're going to really amount to anything. And the Rams drafting Ty Simpson, I'll just putting it this way. I know the Rams are trying to prepare for life after Matthew Stafford, but to draft him right now at 13, you're giving a big kick in the nuts to the defending NFL MVP.
Also, because like this quarterback class is not that good. Next year's quarterback class, if you want to draft a quarterback then to prepare for life after Stafford, okay, I can get that. But this year and reaching on Ty Simpson at 13 when he was projected to be in the second round, or the other players, Mekhi Lemon was right there. If Puka Nacua doesn't come back for his situation off the field, you had him right there. You could have addressed the O-line maybe a little bit. You could have addressed maybe defense. You didn't address it. You decided to go a backup quarterback who is not going to have immediate starting time because Stafford is an MVP last year, and he got you to pretty far in the playoffs, and he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. So I don't know. That's the reason why it's such a head-scratching pick there. Because even if you look at the videos of Coach Sean McVay after that pick, didn't seem like he was the most pleased with that pick. That one I think was purely a GM pick. I don't think McVay made that pick.
I agree. That's something that probably there was a conflict of interest there. All right, Alec, who are your 2 losers?
My 2 losers are, so first, I'm going to say the entire NFC West. I'm going to say the entire NFC West as a whole, not just one team, the whole division. Easily, this division had the worst draft of any division in the NFL draft. And it's not just limited to the 49ers and Cardinals. The 49ers may need to rethink what they were doing at that draft because whatever they were doing wasn't working. They had the 27th pick, but after making 2 trades, they didn't make their first pick until pick number 33, the first pick of the second round. And instead of going offensive tackle, which they should have went with for life after Trent Williams, they went with DeJon Stribling, which was the biggest reach of them all. If you're going for wide receivers, why not Denzel Boston for the matter, or for Jeremy Bernard, who the Steelers picked up? And not to be outdone, the 49ers turned around and used a 3rd-round pick on a running back in Kalen Black, who wasn't even invited to the combine. Between these two, that's 2 questionable picks that John Lynch did in day 2. The crazy part is that messing up their day 2 picks has become an annual tradition. You look at the recent skill position the 49ers drafted on day 2 in the Kyle Shanahan era. Dante Pettis, Jalen Hurd, Deebo Samuel, Trey Sermon, Danny Gray, Tyron Davis-Price, Cameron Latu, and now Stribling. Out of all these players, the only hit was Deebo Samuel. And he's not on the team anymore. He's in Washington. It's not just day 2 picks the Niners have whiffed on. They've also been bad at drafting running backs. Isaac Guerrero, solid rookie year, hasn't shown the promise. Ty Davis-Price, cut in 2 years. Elijah Mitchell, injury issues, cut in 2 years. Trey Sermon, cut in 2 years. Joe Williams, cut in 2 years. The best running back in the Shanahan era that they've had was Christian McCaffrey, a Panthers draft pick. There's right behind him in the Shanahan era for second best, Raheem Mostert, an all free agent, by the way. Shanahan has been one of the smartest offensive minds, but the Niners can never find players who fit his system early in the draft. And not just that, you look at the Cardinals. What was their draft strategy? Jeremiah Love was a gigantic reach. The only way I can accept this pick for them is if James Conner retires. And then selecting Carson Beck when you're trying to ride the season with Jacoby Brissett as a one-off year to prepare for next season when the QB class is more heavier than this year. You select Beck and you have him to say, "Welcome to hell." It's fitting that a team that has no idea what they're doing has no idea what they're doing. I mean, it's the story of the Bidwills. No idea what they're doing as a franchise and as an owner. Next up, the Seahawks. They'll think that they'd be going with corner in the first round. Instead, they go for running back. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, though, as they're not as big of a loser on that regard, because running back was actually one of their needs after seeing Kenneth Walker depart for Kansas City. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for Jacardia Wright. Still getting Avion Terrell would have been much nicer for Seattle to boost up the defense in the absence or departure of Tarek Woolen, because who knows if Josh Job's going to hold up the CB2. Corner would be nice, but the Rams. Look, I get it. Ty Simpson fell into the right situation, but to pick him up in the first round while you just extended Matthew Stafford, as Kevin said, this is pretty much like the Aaron Rodgers situation with Jordan Love all over again. So, I don't need much explanation because Kevin he covered that. So my first loser was the entire NFC West. The second loser, well, screw it. I might just say the Cardinals again out of pettiness. The Cardinals get mentioned twice. You don't get any sympathy.
All right. Now for some good news. Our winners. I'm going to start this off. All right. My first winner, and I really hate to do this, I'm going to say the Dallas Cowboys. Because they basically just sat there and Caleb Downs fell right into their lap. And I think that they had a really good defensive draft overall. And I think that the Cowboys didn't really make any mistakes this draft. I think they drafted the best player available. Like the Caleb Downs pick, I think was like the major highlight for them in their draft room. But Jerry Jones needed to build a defense after losing Michael Parsons because their defense was so pitiful last year. And I think he did just that. So I give the Cowboys that. And they also drafted a wide receiver to potentially replace George Pickens, which that's Jerry Jones' ego coming into play. But it was still like a thought after pick. So I give them that. My second winner, I'm going to say the New York Jets. I want to actually talk about the Jets in a positive light. First off, David Bailey, Arvell Reese, it was a tough decision no matter what you were going to do. And I think David Bailey is going to turn out very well. They got Kenyon Sadiq, which you know what? I was against the pick at first, but then I think their tight end room is so invisible that I don't even know who was their main pass catching target. What was it? Jeremy Ruckert last year was their main tight end? Mason Taylor was their main tight end. It was a bad showing for tight ends for the Jets last year. So I think getting Kenyon Sadiq was a good pick. And then they got a wide receiver in the first round to trade back in. So the Jets were very aggressive in this draft. Now, unfortunately, they missed out on Jacob Rodriguez, which I thought would have helped their linebacking core. But still, I think the Jets did everything right this draft. They played their cards correctly, and I got to give them props. Okay, Kevin, who are your two winners?
Yeah, I'm gonna rather than pick my own team as a winner, I'm gonna say the same thing. The Jets, I feel like are a clear winner here. Like you said, you look at all their draft picks again. Like you said, Bailey or Reese, pick one of them. It was going to be a tough pick no matter what, but I think Bailey is going to be a great player for them. Sadiq, again, I feel like in the grand scheme of things, I feel like that's going to be a better pick than people expected it to be. I do feel like it was a little bit reachy to go for a tight end that high. Maybe you could have gone a different position and maybe gone for a tight end later. But I think in the long run, that might be a better pick. And like you said, their tight end room was kind of non-existent in years past. Getting Omar Cooper Jr. and trading back up for him, I think, was a great move by the Jets. D'Angelo Pons, the corner out of Indiana, again, really good steal in that second round. They get Inez Cooper, the guard from Miami, in the 6th round. I feel like that's very underrated. And they got Cade Klubnik, the quarterback from Clemson, in the 4th round. I think that's a backup quarterback pick because I feel like they're going to draft their starter for the future next year's draft. And I think this is a pick for, obviously, as a backup to Geno Smith, but Geno Smith gets hurt, which he definitely can. Klubnik is a reliable backup in that sense. So I really like what the Jets did here. Now, usually we would knock on them for like being bad at drafting. This year, they're actually kind of cooking with drafting. So,
yeah, they did.
Jets, I think, are a good winner. Second winner, I really like what the Bucks did drafting wise. The Bucks they had Reuben Bain Jr. fall into their lap. I've picked 15. He was not supposed to go that low, but Bucks took him the first chance that he felled him there. Josiah Trotter, they got him in the 2nd round. I picked him going there in my mock, if you remember.
Did.
Mock. So I think that's a good pick for them too. And they got another weapon to kind of replace Mike Evans for him leaving. Ted Hurst, the wide receiver out of Georgia State, who I feel like is going to be really good too. So I like what the Bucks did too. So I'll say Jets and Bucks.
All right, Alec, now your 2 winners.
For my first winner here. Yeah, the first winner that I have here in terms of teams, well, I have to say, at least on the defensive side, let's go with the Chiefs for this. Because the Chiefs loaded up on defense. Mahomes is coming off a torn ACL, so he's not going to be at 1%. And the Chiefs took a lot of heavy hits on the defensive side. Trent McDuffie, gone. Jalen Watson, gone. Chris Jones, getting up there in age. So the Chiefs identified their needs, and they addressed that one by one. Corner, Mansour Delane. So trading up to the 6th pick, like, chill. Nobody's going to take corner from you. Not the Browns, for that matter. Yet it's still a good pick, for that matter. Mansour Delane, that was a good pick, and makes perfect sense that he is going to be as a CB1 of the future for Kansas City. Because let's be real, do you trust a CB1 should you trust a quarter room where the CB1 is Noel Williams? I don't think so. This was a perfect pick. Peter Woods, a defensive tackle, screams Chris Jones replacement in the future. The Chiefs defense wasn't great last year, but Steve Spagnuolo shows that he's one of the best defensive minds. And Woods may be the best selection that he's had for defensive lineman. Mason Thomas could fill in nicely opposite George Karlaftis. The Chiefs need edge rusher threats and consistent ones at that. They haven't had a consistent edge rusher 2 opposite George Karlaftis after Frank Clark left. And lastly, Jadon Kennedy, as what he will be competing for a quarter role with Noel Williams and the CB2. We'll see how that plays out. But the Chiefs were the only team in the draft this year to use each of their first 4 picks exclusively on defense. That's a cool stat that I found. But I feel the next time around, they should focus on offense, because I feel the offensive side of the draft, they left a lot to be desired. Now, the other winner of this draft, I'm going to say the Giants, for the matter. Well, the Jets and the Giants may want to party at MetLife Stadium together because both teams killed it. And the Giants, they start Arvell Reese falling into their lap at 5th overall. So, now, the question is, where do you play him at? Linebacker or edge? Phil, you start him out at linebacker. If you do put him at edge, then you're going to start fielding calls for Kayvon Thibodeau and have him develop Abdul Carter some more. The Giants add another likely defensive starter in Colton Hood, and he can form a formidable cornerback tandem with Paulson Adebo. That's just the defense. They also upgrade offensively with Francis Maligo with the pick that they used to trade away Dexter Lawrence. That's a very good pick that the Giants have selected. Besides, you're sure about the injury insurance indicates Andrew Thomas gets hurt, which at this point is basically guaranteed at this point because he doesn't stay healthy a lot. Now, that helps out Jackson Dart a lot, and Cam Skadden for the matter. With Malik Neighbors, there's on the roster. Malachi Fields doesn't need to be a number 1, but if he could develop into a strong number 2, that's going to be a big boost for Big Blue.
I agree. I listen. I didn't want to be a homer and just say the Giants, but they really
Right.
did. Like they made some good moves. Like they didn't hit a slam dunk, but they made some good moves. I think if you look at other teams who had a semi decent draft, the Giants are probably one that people are no one's talking about. I mean, because this is John Harbaugh going to work and trying to turn things around, and I think he did what he had to do.
You also got to remember that Wandale Robinson, he got drafted like third, fourth round, and he was our wide
Correct.
receiver too this past year. And that now he got a big bag with Dable and company in Tennessee. Malachi Fields is a third round pick. Like he could easily turn into another Wandale as a replacement for him alongside Neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Giants made a lot of really good moves overall.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're gonna get into the NBA. So we went over the Knicks series, we went over the Rockets and Lakers series. We're gonna go over some other series. By the Knicks and Hawks just went final. It's 2-2 now. Knicks won by 20 points. What was the margin? 20 points? The final was give me a moment. The final was 114-98. They won by 16 points.
You have 114 to 98. So that's a 16-point margin. Good
There
work.
you go. That's how you bounce
Good
back.
work, Knicks. It's a series now, and now Game 5 will go back to the Garden. So, the Oklahoma City Thunder won 121 to 109. That was earlier today. And then the Orlando Magic up 2-1 in the series against Detroit, 113 to 105 at home. Don't look now. The Magic are alive and well. Now, I want to go over this series because I didn't think that the Magic would be this competitive this early on in the series against the Pistons. And if you're a Pistons fan right now, I'd be scared because this team went wire to wire in Detroit with a win in game 1. Game 2, they got blown out in the second half, but you know what? They bounced back at home in game 3. And if they win game 4, they're up 3-1, commanding lead. Best case scenario at this point, you win in game 6 if you can win the next game in game 4, which I think would be on Monday. So let's talk about this for a second. Alec, what is Orlando doing right?
Oh boy. Just to think that the Hornets would be a worse matchup for the Pistons than the Magic. Well, life comes at you fast. Well, I admittedly have been watching more hockey than I have with the NBA, but with this going on, who saw this coming? Nobody did. I mean, the Magic lead two game. They lead the series 2-1 after this game 3 victory. Paulo Banchero has been finding his form as of late. And there were some reports that Jamal Mosley could be fired from the Magic regardless of season result if Orlando. He did find his form late, and it's a timely shots that matter. 25 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. He got the benefit of the doubt with 11 points coming on free throws, but you speak of defense. The Magic are a defense-first team, and they showed out 3 steals and 2 blocks from Banchero, and in total, 8 apiece between steals and blocks. The Penguins just scored again. It's 2-0, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Yes, but Desmond Bane has been making timely shot after timely shot. Orlando acquired him as a 3-point specialist. He made 7 of those. Detroit, I don't know what's going on, but JB Bickerstaff is showing his flaws as a coach. Whether or not this team has overachieved above their weight, maybe they have. Who knows? And it starts to get some discomfort whether or not they can beat the Cavaliers in a 7-game series should they go on and win this series against Orlando. Cade Cunningham, he needs no introduction. He's good, but dear Lord, 9 turnovers?
Yes.
That's not a Cade Cunningham type game. And to cap it off with the 27 points, 8 of 23, 3 of 10 from deep. That's not the type of game you want out of your superstar moving forward. It's time to lock in mentally. Shake off those heebie-jeebies and move forward. Put this one right behind you. The next game's another day.
Yeah, so game 4 is on Monday.
Duran.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Kevin, I know we mentioned a few of the series, but it's 4-2 Yankees, by the way. For those of you who actually are tuning into the Yankee game and watching this episode, I am going to ask you this, Kevin. Of all the NBA series besides the Knicks, Also, it's 32-29 Denver in Minnesota in Game 4. What do you love so much about this Denver Minnesota series? It's been super competitive.
Oh, absolutely. It's been, I think it's been the best game of the first round so far, if you had to ask me. And this was a matchup that happened last year, and it won like 6 or the full 7 games. And these two teams are neck and neck with each other. And I think that the star power that both of these teams had, obviously with the Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards, and with the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, there's a reason why we had this series going either the full 7 or 6 games, because it is that competitive. And the Timberwolves are up on the series 2-1, and Nuggets, I feel like they could tie the game up tonight, and they're up 2 points right now with 7 minutes left to go in the second quarter currently. But I feel like it's the playoff experience from both of these teams, and that they know each other very well. We know how both of these teams like to play, very aggressive, defense heavy. Jokic gets triple doubles like candy, like it's nothing. And both of these teams play to each other's strengths and weaknesses. Like both of these teams know how to play with each other. And I think, like I said, it's going to come down to a few possessions here and there, like toward the late minutes, like in the games. And I feel like whoever is going to want it more on the defensive end, I think is who is going to win the series. I think all of us had the Nuggets winning the series in either 6 or 7 games, myself included. I had the Nuggets in 6 games. But the Wolves, they're no slouch either. I mean, obviously, I feel like they took a step back a little bit from last year, but in the playoffs, they're a different animal and a good beast as long as Anthony Edwards can do his thing. So I feel like that's why this series, this matchup in particular, is always going to be competitive because these teams just know each other well.
Now, to correct you on something, I did say Minnesota was going to win in 7 games.
Oh wait, that's right, you did. You went the bold pick. I forgot.
Yeah, you were the only one to say Minnesota.
That's right, I still feel confident about that because Minnesota's been holding their own like I expected them to. Okay, now before we get into Fresh Powder Fry, which is going to be me this week, we're going to get into NHL. I know that's Alec's strong suit. So we're going to do a little thing called Alec Assist. Give me an Alec Assist here. So I'm going to give Alec every single series in the NHL playoff that we haven't discussed. The Canes and Ottawa Senators is irrelevant because that series ended. But every other series that we haven't topped on, I'm going to get Alec Assist. And he's going to give me a little explanation for each of the ones that I'm going to throw on his face. And here we go. So, Alec, give me an assist. Buffalo Sabres, Boston Bruins. What do you like about that series?
All right. Well, just a precursor for this, but before we head over to Buffalo versus Boston. Well, Senators fans, how's it like feeling that we're on the other side of a 4-game series sweep, knowing that we were ourselves in a wrong side of a 4-game series sweep just 3 years before? I just wore it's several wars to say that. 2 Hurricanes fans go round the outside, round the outside, round the outside. I do not recommend watching that video. Kyle Ivan just made the single most cringe lyric video of the entire playoffs. I mean, this torture was karma for the Senators. Sorry, not sorry. And Brady Tkachuk, that fight was the most impact he had all series because he was invisible. He was like a ghost, just mentally checked out. Tim Stützle couldn't drive the play. I mean, okay, moving on. Well, 2 of the 3 games between Buffalo and Boston saw the Bruins collapse on offense. The first game, especially, the Buffalo Sabres became just the first team in Stanley Cup playoff or NHL regular season history to win a game after trailing by 2 goals in the final 8 minutes of regulation. Well, the first team to do this in regulation, by the way. That was an insane comeback. And it was mostly going to be all Boston with the top line of Elias Lindholm, Morgan Geekie, and David Pastrnak dominating the play. Jeremy Swayman, still the same goaltender that we've known in Boston. And why he was named to Team USA. He can take over a game and steal it. But Buffalo is balanced 5-on-5. The Sabres power play has been dreadful. And it's been costing some games, such as Game 2, in which they fell flat in the second period. And when the Bruins second line of Victor Arvidsson, Pavel Zacha, and ex-Sabre Casey Middlestad had a bounce back from a nightmare game 1. But this has been a back-and-forth series. But there should be no reason why the Sabres power play is faltering against one of the worst penalty-killing units in the league. I get it. Jonathan Aspro is stepping up as a shutdown defenseman next to Charlie McAvoy. That's a good defensive pair. But there should be no excuse for that happening. You figure that there should be adjustments. Well, here's the adjustment. Noah Ostlund comes in place of an injured Josh Norris. He's shown in Game 3. Sabres fans missed him. He was one of their best rookies on the season, and that game showed why. Well, welcome back, Osty, says all Buffalo.
Buffalo's looking really good right now.
And also Alex Lyon. Welcome back to the playoffs. Last we saw of him, he was on the Panthers team in 23. That was a miraculous runner-up to the Golden Knights as the 16th overall seed. And he was strong, filling in for the struggling Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Wow, incredible. All right, so now we're going to go out west. We're going to go to the Golden Knights and the Utah Mammoth. Utah had their first home playoff game ever. The formerly known as Arizona Coyotes played in Utah. It was a jam-packed house, loud environment. And don't think that Utah is a bad sports market, because when they went to back-to-back NBA Finals in the 90s, the crowd in Utah was packed, and Utah loves their hockey this early on in their tenure there. All right, Al, give me an assist. Utah Mammoth, Vegas Golden Knights. What's going on?
Oh, first off, before the action on the ice, Mammoth fans organized a jersey swap. Exchanging some jerseys for Mammoth jerseys and Jazz jerseys. Even some of them dared to exchange a Golden Knights jersey for a Mammoth jersey. Isn't that the most hilarious irony of it all? Here's even more hilarious irony. Carter Hart, who's been looking strong down the stretch in the regular season, looked like a complete dud in Game 3. Utah had 12 shots in Game 3, the fewest that Vegas has allowed in a playoff game in their franchise's history. Carter Hart let in 4 goals on 12 shots, including one that he should have had back against Mackenzie Weegar on a shot from the high slot that bounced off his mask, off the back of his pad, and in the nets. You know what could have been nicer for Vegas? Lawson Krause not having a 2-goal game in the second period. Or Jack Eichel actually showing up. Or, once again, a recurring theme like what Toronto see in the playoffs, Mitch Marner showing up in the playoffs. That's been a recurring nightmare that Vegas fans are now witnessing. And they're just seeing it right now in front of them. That Mitch Marner, you'll get you some nice production in the regular season. Playoff time, oh boy. He has to get his act fast and quickly under John Tortorella, because this is getting ugly and fast in the Marner experiment. Well, it's no secret Vegas is elite defensively, but Utah matches them in every facet. And they are by far and away the faster team. And you know what can win you games? Speed, strength, physicality, skill, and goaltending. Karel Vejmelka has been excellent.
Yeah, right now Utah is playing with house money, and right now they're making their new fans proud in the Salt Lake City state. All right, now we're going to go into oh my God, this has been actually a phenomenal series in the Eastern Conference. The Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. This series just packed with overtime games and just unbelievable moments. Alec, give me an assist, Canadiens and Lightning.
Oh, I'll give you a Lane Hudson assist. On a game-winning goal, that he himself scored, or a Lane Hudson assist to Juraj Slafkovsky on the power play. But here's the tail of the tape. Overtime. These two teams just don't know how to not play a close game. That's what makes the series so good. John Cooper said himself that the Lightning are comfortable playing the villain in this series. That's fair and warranted, given that their status is a hockey powerhouse, having won 2 Stanley Cups in this decade. Andrei Vasilevsky, Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, Brandon Hagel, Anthony Cirelli, Jake Gensel. You get the tape. The most impressive part about this Lightning defense with Darren Radish leading the way, they're doing this without Victor Hedman, who you can argue was the worst defender on their team this season. The others around him have stepped up big time, including J.J. Mosier, who scored his first career overtime goal, regular season or playoffs. Vasilevsky, though, hasn't looked like himself, and that's been a concern that I've had with Vasilevsky in this playoff, because the last few playoff runs, he hasn't been himself. Goaltending has been hit or miss between Vasilevsky and Jakub Dobeš, but there are moments in which Dobeš has shown bright, and there were some moments in which Vasilevsky has been good. Now, Montreal is showing their youthful lungs. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Ivan Demidov, Lane Hudson, as I said. Everything's been clicking for Marty St. Louis, who, by the way, used to play for the Tampa Bay Lightning under John Tortorella in 2004 when they won the Stanley Cup. He knows the Lightning. He's played for them before. And now that he's the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, I feel he knows a bit or two about knowing how to stop the Lightning.
Wow. The storyline is just there. And I mean, I love the way these games go to overtime. Like, it's such a competitive. We've seen penalty shots. We've seen goals get overturned. And these two teams just have a battle of attrition and adrenaline almost, because they just keep going. Like, we've seen double overtime games, single overtime games. Like, it's amazing this series is producing. And I said this was going to go 7 games in favor of the Canadiens, and right now the series is not disappointing at all.
Please give us 7 games at this theater. Same thing with Dallas and Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yep. And speaking of Dallas, Minnesota, that game just concluded game 4 tonight. It's tied at 2 going back to Dallas. Alec, give me an assist on that game.
Oh, man. This series, just like Lightning and Canadiens, is just theater. And these two is just cold-blooded hate between Minnesota's current franchise, the Wild, and their former franchise, the Stars. Dallas is a step ahead on the man advantage. They have the better special teams. 5-on-5, it's been neck and neck between the two. But the reason why I like Minnesota to take this series is because of 5-on-5 play. That's why I lean slightly towards them in the 5-on-5, because they have the more physical bodies, in my opinion, with them. Michael McCarron, who they traded it for from Nashville, and everyone else. The culture setters around. Vladimir Tarasenko, who they had acquired from Detroit to bring that Stanley Cup championship experience. To have to get a taste of what championship winning teams are like. To have them have that sense of glory with them. And I think that's important. One of the most important things and one of the most underrated things is having a former Stanley Cup champion on your roster to make a deep playoff run. And with Tarasenko, that's possible. Dallas, well, that's been more or less. That's because Mikko Rantanen, he's the one that can get you over the top now that he has that championship winning pedigree with the Colorado Avalanche. But it's been back and forth, and I'm impressed with the play between Rock Faber and Quinn Hughes, the top pairing. Defense is going to be the story of the rest of the series. Now it's a best of 3 now. Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, Hughes, Faber. This is going to be a defensive battle, and Jake Ottinger has found his form again. Jesper Wallstedt, as his nickname implies, he is living up to the nickname of the Great Wall of St. Paul.
I love that nickname. I think it's great. But, like, we said prior to the Stanley Cup playoffs that this series was going to be one that we were going to circle and is one that we were going to have to pay attention to. And much like Montreal and Tampa Bay, it's lived up to the billing. It really has, because like this is just quality hockey from arguably the best division in the NHL in the Central Division. The top 3 teams in that division got in. Colorado's dominating the LA Kings. We kind of expected that. And then you got the 2 contemporary options for that division going head to head, and it's just been blah.
Absolutely.
Like, you gotta love playoff hockey. Like, I've been watching a lot of playoff hockey this series, this first round, and I gotta tell you, like, we've seen more penalty shots in this single round since 2019. 3 penalty shots across the first round. The last time that happened was 2019, where there were 3 penalty shots, and I think it was the conference semifinals in 2019. I could be wrong, but penalty shots are rare to come by, and when they happen, you gotta be like, wow, that's something that I never expected.
I mean, Jordan Martinook, he got a penalty shot in game 2 against Ottawa right after a waved off goal from Mark Jankowski in overtime. It was an overtime penalty shot. He missed on it, but he righted his wrongs and got the double overtime winner.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that was in the Canes Senators game too. I remember that. That's
Yeah.
crazy. This is why like that ad for ESPN talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs when it's like, what are you watching? This is Stanley Cup playoffs. One of the best. I remember that ad. I don't know if you guys ever saw that ad, but
It's been everywhere.
it's everywhere. And you know what? That ad is perfect for the representation of what the Stanley Cup playoffs represent. Excitement.
Yes.
All right. So we haven't done this in the last 2 episodes. Get your popcorn ready and get comfortable because
It's time for Fresh, Fine, or Fried.
that's right. It's time for Fresh Power Friday, the segment that closes out the show. We haven't done this in a few weeks now. The last person who did it was John. John talked about his experience on a flight and how people standing up in their seats are annoying the hell out of him. And you know what? I get it. Stay in your seat and just wait to be called up. Don't wait after you have reached the gate. Stay calm. But anyways, Fresh Fire Friday is the segment where one of us goes off every single week, and we have a segment where that gives us 5 minutes. At the end of our 5 minute take, the rest of the panelists will raise on a scale of fresh, fine, or fried. Fresh meaning good, fine meaning okay, fried meaning outright terrible. I'm on the hot seat this week. I got 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure Alex is gonna keep track of that. And here I go. So I was gonna do a college rant for this one, and the reason why is because there's been this great debate over the last several years about what conference is better, the Big Ten or the SEC. And for those of you who want to know, I think it's the Big Ten that absolutely takes the cake. First off, you're getting more NIL money from going to a Big Ten school than you are an SEC school. That's the first big point. NIL is huge in the Big Ten Conference. And you're getting more resources being in the Big Ten than the SEC. Another thing you got to keep in count with these Big Ten schools is that the markets for the Big Ten schools are insane. New York City for Rutgers, even though Rutgers shouldn't be in the Big Ten to begin with. Chicago, Illinois, thanks to Northwestern and Illinois. Detroit, thanks to Michigan State. Ann Arbor, thanks to Michigan. Um, Los Angeles, thanks to UCLA, which is one of the most prestigious programs in all college sports, is UCLA. And if you look at how the Big Ten has been this calendar year, they have been dominant. They won their third straight college football national championship. They won March Madness with Michigan. They won the soccer tournament with Washington. They were in the hockey championship with Wisconsin. It seems like the Big Ten is consistent all around across every college sport. Hell, they were even in the final in gymnastics. And even though they don't really win in baseball, they actually have the number one team in the country is in the Big Ten. That's UCLA, 38-3, and haven't lost a conference game yet this year, and have 2 really big prospects that could go to the MLB almost right away. So that's one factor that you got to keep in with the Big Ten. And like I mentioned with the NIL and the marketing and everything, the SEC, their big markets, what is it? Atlanta and the state of Georgia? It's not a big market because the SEC, like, okay, warm weather. Okay, fine. I get it. Warm weather and ultimately better coaching and probably bigger names. But, like, the SEC is just blah. Like, it's all hype. No, it's all fluff, no stuff with the SEC. You're going to get quantity, but not quality. That's how I look at this debate right here. And when you look at the Big Ten Conference in college basketball, they get fewer bids in the NCAA tournament, but they have better results from all 8 or 9 of their teams. Like, for example, in the SEC, yes, Florida won the national championship last year. But you want to know something? Out of 14 bids that the SEC got to in 2025, only half of them made it past round 1. And meanwhile, all 8 Big Ten teams made it into round 2. So the Big Ten, and it's like the names too, like, John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, coached Michigan. Caitlin Clark played for Iowa. Did I mention that UCLA won in women's basketball? So that's another championship to add to the resume. And by the way, the Big Ten is probably the only conference of the Power Four that actually competes in hockey. The SEC doesn't have a hockey conference. The ACC doesn't have a hockey conference. The Big 12 doesn't have a hockey conference. So the Big Ten is present, and they're consistent, and they're well spread out, and great athletes. And it's not even just in one sport. Tom Brady, Michigan. Caitlin Clark, women's basketball. played for Iowa. Saquon Barkley, Penn State. Kirk Cousins, not the greatest, but he played at Michigan State. A lot of the big time names that you're seeing in professional sports play in Big Ten conferences. And one last thing I'm going to say, adding UCLA and USC to the Big Ten were absolutely massive because UCLA and USC have prestige behind their programs because they have the most first round picks across all major sports from the USC, and then UCLA has more national championships across all sports compared to any other school. So if you're a major athlete in high school and you're looking to get recruited, if you get recruited by a Big Ten school, you're in the driver's seat for success because pro sports look at the Big Ten and they say, wow, look at what they were able to do at the Big Ten school. The Big Ten is where it's at, and it's the best conference in college basketball for a reason. In college football, college baseball, like all around, very well rounded. And if I'm a Big Ten, and as a Big Ten alum, I find this to be the true answer. The SEC, all hype, but no fallback. They hype you up. They get the booze and the drinks and the cigars and whatever because that's Southern culture. But you know what? That doesn't mean anything. They write checks that their butts can't cash. The Big Ten is where it's at, and it's not even a contest.
All right, with 16 seconds to spare.
All right, I like it. All right, Kevin, Fresh Founding Fried.
I think it's fresh, for sure. I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like the Big Ten conference, all around, those schools are very good across all the major college sports. I think this recent March Madness tournament kind of, I think, solidified that statement that you made there, Matt, about the Big Ten being better than the SEC. Because you look at the Big Ten conference teams. Michigan just won the national championship. Nebraska went further than people expected.
Yeah.
Beat my UH Cougars. I'm still pissed about that, but they went further than people thought. Iowa, they had an incredible run this year in March Madness. UCLA, they won women's college basketball. They beat South Carolina. And Penn State, like they're known for being a good team. Obviously, they fell short this year, but like in recent years past, Penn State is a pretty good team. So, and even Indiana, they won the national championship in football this past season with the now top draft pick Fernando Mendoza, and they've had other guys go there too. So yeah, the Big Ten, you like quality over quantity in this case in terms of conferences and how they play. And it's like you said, the SEC. We used to think of them as like this dominant powerhouse of a conference. They haven't really looked like that, across all the college sports when you really look at it in recent years. In recent years, like currently, it's definitely the Big Ten by far, no question. So absolutely, I think it's 100% fresh.
All righty, all right, Alex, Fresh Founding Fried.
The only thing that's fried about this absolutely fresh statement is the fact that it came at the most unfortunate time that Anthony Edwards went down holding his knee as we were speaking. The biggest oof that we had to bring up. That's not good for Minnesota. But as you were saying, let's go on a more positive light. Well, the fact that you mentioned about the Big Ten with the NIL and all of that, it's mostly because of the big markets that the Big Ten have been focusing themselves with. Because in the state of Illinois, you have Champaign, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. Hey, so that's a big market. In Michigan, you got Lansing, Ann Arbor, which are drives away from Detroit. The Michigan itself, you speak of the eastern side of Michigan, that's a big market in and of itself.
Yeah.
Ohio, with the state of Ohio State, with Columbus, Ohio. Semi-big market, but it can count as a big market because Columbus is the biggest city in the state of Ohio. And that's even accounting for Cleveland and Cincinnati, who are more notable in terms of size. Yeah, Columbus is the biggest city. Penn State, they're not by any means at a big city, but they have a big reputation in wrestling. They're really good at that.
Yes,
I've heard that.
And they were an up-and-coming team in hockey, even though they lost in the first round of this year's men's hockey championship run against Minnesota Duluth. Minnesota, they have been reputable in hockey. Wisconsin, they just made it to the national championship in hockey too. And on the men's side, the women's side, they're powerhouse led by Mark Johnson, who was part of that Miracle on Ice team, by the way. And he's built a dynasty with Wisconsin. So the Big Ten is by far and away the best conference in the NCAA. feel people are upset. I think the SEC, some people are glossing over the idea of a powerhouse SEC over what is actually the SEC right now. I mean, if you're talking about big markets, there's not a lot of big markets. Athens is just a drive away from Atlanta, and that's by far the biggest market of them all. Baton Rouge, not exactly a big market, though it's a drive away from New Orleans, but not big enough. Let's see. UT Austin, who just joined the SEC. I say UT Austin because that's the Texas Longhorns.
Right.
Austin, I can consider a growing market, not a big market. They're a growing market, but not exact. But in the way of growing market, they're more of a mid-major market in terms of size markets and size of markets compared to other cities in the United States. Well, but either way, I agree with the sentiment that the Big Ten is by far and away the best conference in the NCAA.
All right. I got a totally fresh statement on that. All right. So that was Fresh Founder Fried. Now, before we actually officially get into our little chat around for the next 9.5 minutes, I do want to say one thing, and this is like harping on it too. I would not want to send my kid to a school in New Orleans, in Louisiana. Like the areas right there are not as safe either. Like that's how I also feel. I feel like you're more secure in schools in the Big Ten, like those areas. Like if I'm sending my kid to Alabama or Georgia or Mississippi, Ole Miss, like I'm not really comfortable with my kids going there.
Absolutely not. It also, real life situations also play into this as factors. Not to mention the education rates, how successful
Right.
you are. You have to factor into how successful is the education in this state. Louisiana ranks around the bottom. Same thing with Alabama. Those are states in which they're not really good at education. Whereas states like Illinois, Michigan, those are more successful in terms of education. Most of the more successful universities in terms of education come around the New England region. You think, for example, a prestigious school like Harvard, which is an Ivy League school.
Right. The Ivy League is big for their academics.
Yeah, the Ivy League is built on their education, for the matter. They're not more known for athletics, but that's where some of the most successful people in terms of scientists, doctors, politicians, that's where they come from.
Like the Big Ten is well rounded. They're really good in academics. They're really good in overall activity and extracurriculars that you could do as a student. Like that's what the Big Ten school is for. Like Rutgers University, I went there, one of the most diverse schools I've ever went to in my life. And when I mean diverse, I mean how there's a there's a solid population in every single ethnic group. There's a solid Indian population. There's a solid Japanese population. There's a Chinese population, American, like black, white, whatever. Like it's a well-rounded community at Rutgers, and I'm pretty sure a lot of schools, even in Michigan, where they're big with Palestinian students, like they're big on that. And I feel like Big Ten is more well-rounded than these Southern schools.
Yeah, the Big Ten is very well-rounded.
Yeah, I will give them that. All right. So for the next 7 minutes, I'm going to say this one last thing, and this is also sports related, really briefly. Brock Lesnar, if you know that name or if you heard of him, former UFC heavyweight champion, WWE wrestler, announced his retirement at WrestleMania. He lost in 5 minutes to Obafemi. He's 48 years old, one of the best combat athletes you'll ever see. He actually did have a cup of coffee in the NFL as a Minnesota Viking.
Oh,
nice.
So Brock had an amazing career, and combat sports like the UFC. I can't imagine doing UFC and WWE over the course of a 25-year career. Like that's astounding in its own right. So congrats to Brock.
Body you gotta do.
Yeah. So congrats to Brock on an amazing career. And one last thing I do want to say, and this is in regards to this here jersey, autism awareness. All month long, I've been wearing my autism awareness jersey that I got 5 years ago for every single episode in April for Foursquare Sports. This is a cause that I have been very passionate about, and I'm glad I got to represent it in a positive light. Because when I was 2 years old, I was diagnosed with autism. And you might look at me and you might say, oh my God, he's autistic. I wouldn't figure out. let me just talk about autism for a little bit. Autism has many forms. You could be high on the spectrum, you could be low on the spectrum. There's like autism is very, very. There's a lot of variables. Like there's a wide array of people with autism. You could be nonverbal. You could be verbal. There are people who are unable to move. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes on with autism. Like it comes far and wide. But like Alex said one time, being autistic is like having a superpower. And I know as someone who's autistic that I never belittle my diagnosis. Hell, when I found out I was autistic, I was surprised because when I was in school, I used to not go to events like Circle of Friends, or I didn't used to go help out in programs like After School Kids. And the reason why was because when I was in high school, which is before I found out I was autistic, I didn't really know that I was on the spectrum, and I thought I was bigger than that. Admittedly, yeah, I thought I was bigger than autism. But then when I found out I had the diagnosis, I found out when I was a sophomore at Rutgers. And when I found out, I was shocked because I didn't think I belonged in that category. I didn't think that I qualified as someone who was autistic. I guess knowing, like, without knowing you're autistic, you don't think you're autistic. And then it just comes naturally. But now I kind of realized, all this time, I do trip over my words sometimes. I do blank out sometimes. But one thing autistic people have that's a massive benefit: enthusiasm. Autistic people have enthusiasm for days. And you're looking at someone that has autism, that has enthusiasm. Hell, like I could be the most knowledgeable football person, but I might not be the sharpest, but I love it so much that I always do my research and I'm always coming up with agendas. And like that's another thing. Autistic people are structured. Like every week is like a routine. Every Wednesday, I would make an agenda for Foursquare Sports, and I would tell Kevin, Alec, and John, "Hey, we're doing this." And I would always pivot because I want the shows to go well.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone who has autism, don't let that be a detriment to you, because autism is like having an ability that no one else has. And hell, when I first found out I was diagnosed with autism, I used to get bullied. And you know what? Those people who you know what? Since it's a video, I can do it and it's not gonna be in the air. For those people who think that autism is a disadvantage,
That's right.
that's what I gotta say to you. Autism is amazing, and it should not be understated, and should not be belittled, and you shouldn't pick on anyone who does it. Stand up for the little guy.
Absolutely. Well said, Matt.
If you dare.
Yeah, like it just it's not just me. My friend Giulio Bianchi is on the spectrum. He's one of the most diehard movie people I've ever known in my life. My friend James Hartman is a diehard Knicks fan. He's on the spectrum. And the amount of stuff that he comes up with New York Knicks hype packages. I should probably send Kevin one of those hype packages.
Oh, for sure.
But,
send it my way. Awesome. I'd love to see it.
I'm gonna send you something eventually. But enthusiasm and energy, positive energy. You don't see negative energy from someone with autism. And if you are verbal, nonverbal, low end, high end, it doesn't matter. We're all built the same. And if you're a normal person and you think that being autism is not normal, you know what? Take a walk.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, seriously. But I love the fact that I got to do this for the entire month. And I'm glad that Kevin, Alec, and John got to be with me throughout this entire way. And to prove that it's my jersey,
Sirianni, it's
You have
yours.
it. The nameplate.
Oh, I
The
activated
nameplate.
Siri by accident.
Oh.
Oh my god. But like I'm blessed for everything. And I'm glad that I got the support of you guys throughout this entire month. So it means a lot to me.
Of course.
But anyways, from Kevin Zolix and Al Nava, I'm Matt Sirianni. God bless you all for watching this episode of Foursquare Sports. We will be back next Saturday. Hopefully John will be back, and hopefully there's no power outage or anything like that. We love John on the show, and we always love having him around in his company. But we will be back in May, and unfortunately I will not be wearing this jersey for the month of May because Autism Awareness Month is over. But autism will always be a part of my life, and it will forever be a part of my life, and I will never, ever forget who I am, ever. But anyways, it's been Four Square Sports, which is sports at its best core. And also, feed your dogs, and old people are the greatest. They're full of wisdom and experience. Take care of your elders. They mean the most to our generation and youth. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. We will see you next week.
Hi, everybody. Christopher Mad Dog Russo here. And you know what I do? Four Square Sports on Sunday nights, 6 to 8, with all those parts of the country taken care of. Listen all the time. You got it. Mad Dog on Mad Dog Unleashed. Listen to my guys. Listen to my guys.